It's 2025 and I'm finally playing Elden Ring. I hadn't picked up the game earlier as it was always a bit out of my price range, but then Kato Genesis decided to gift me a copy. Thanks Kato! To kick things off, I needed to create a character. I picked Confessor as my class because it was the coolest looking, and Golden Seed as my keepsake because improving the healing items seems like a smart move in a Soul-style game. I also named myself the Lost One as I'm going into Elden Ring totally blind. I have been watching someone play the DLC, but I had no idea what the opening for the base game looked like, so I'm expecting to get real lost and confused as I play. With my character created, the game then gets started with an intro cinematic, and I've got to be honest here, I was a little disappointed. It's not that this is a bad intro, but compare this
A loathsome dung-eater.
to this.
Aldrich, saint of the deep.
Or even this part.
And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown.
To this one.
Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign.
Like, I'm not saying Elden Ring has a bad opening movie, just that the Dark Souls games definitely have better ones. We're into the game itself now though, and things are looking pretty good. That is until I walk into this arena, and the grafted scion drops down from the sky. Now this is a Souls game, so starting with a boss fight isn't all that surprising. But right now, I don't know if I'm supposed to win or lose. On the one hand, I have no healing items yet, and you typically get those before you start playing proper. But on the other hand, I fought Gundyr at the start of Dark Souls 3, so I know how much FromSoft hates all of us. Doesn't matter either way, as soon after dealing my first bit of damage, I get cut down, and the screen goes black. For a really long time. Not sure if it's supposed to do that, but eventually visuals return, and a lady on a horse arrives to tell me how lucky I am to have fallen flat on my face into this damp cave.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all.
Sometime later my character manages to get back up, and I suddenly have healing flasks. That's as good a sign as any that the game proper has begun. But before I progress any further, the game informs me of the Cave of Knowledge. All I need do is drop down below and the tutorial will begin. Or maybe this is just a prank by the devs to teach new players their place. Nope, I survived. Oh, that's a relief. Although it is at this point that I realise the controls are going to be all slightly off from what I'm used to. The Dark Souls games have some really stupid control schemes built in, and Elden Ring made it so some of the dumb stuff is gone. And while that sounds great, it does mean that all that muscle memory I spent hours learning is now going to get me killed. Not right away though, as backstabs still work the same as I'm used to, allowing me to easily take down the tutorial enemies with the same move each time, completely disregarding whatever tactics and control schemes the game is trying to teach me. I use this tactic to make it all the way through the cave and to my first fog door. Alright, boss number 2, and the first one I'm actually supposed to be able to kill. The fuck was that? That wasn't a boss. Pinwheel's harder to take down than that chump. Pinwheel! Whatever, the cave has been conquered, and I now enter Limgrave. This is an open world, where I can seemingly pick as many plants as I'd like. And this is a serious problem, as I have a really bad alchemy addiction. So there's a good chance 95% of my future Elden Ring playtime will just be picking flowers. I'll save that for me time though. While recording I decide what I need to do next is level up. I can't do so at the sight of Grace, so figure I should chat with this strange looking NPC, but all they do is insult me.
You are maidenless. You are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Alright, fine you absolute jerk. If you're not going to help me out, then I'll just push forward and fight whatever comes next. And what comes next is this big golden knight. Looks kinda tough, but it's the first enemy you see upon exiting the tutorial, so should be manageable. Guess that shows me for thinking I know what I'm in for. Despite how much stronger than me the big guy is, I'm still able to draw first blood, getting a couple of hits in without taking any damage myself. I can block his attacks, and even manage a couple of cool dodges, but with how little damage I deal, this doesn't look promising. Eventually I get caught out while trying to jump, and the tree sentinel double taps me. My first proper death out the way, I pick up the runes I dropped and then decide to just walk past the sentinel, as the much more open world of this FromSoft game seemingly means I can just circumnavigate some bosses for the time being. After a little exploring, I come across Merchant Santa, who has a crafting kit for sale. It was bad enough that I could pick flowers, but the game has an expanded crafting system too? Yeah, I'm going to be spending hundreds of hours gathering materials to craft every single recipe. I can't help myself. Fortunately at this early point in the game, I can't actually do much crafting, so have to interact with the other systems instead. Like stealth. How come nobody told me that Elden Ring was a stealth game? Here I was thinking I'd have to honourably fight enemies in open combat, using my skill and training to get the upper hand. But if I can just shove my sword up everyone's anus, then this game's going to be so much easier. After a brief bit of anal devastation, I continue my wandering, and come across this strange red bug. I'm familiar with the crystal lizards from the Souls games, and figure this must be Elden Ring's equivalent. And so I jump attack with a crippling double slash, before running the beetle down. But instead of a reward, I get told that killing these insects replenishes my flasks. My flasks, which I have not used yet. Great. Still I push onwards, finding another site of grace positioned close to a military camp of some kind. I figure I should have a quick rest here before taking on the mass of soldiers, but a surprise waits in store.
Greetings.
It's Weird Horse Lady, and this time she's got an offer I can't refuse.
2 fingers.
Stretch me out that much and I don't think I can be called maidenless anymore. But it turns out she's the one offering to be the maiden in this scenario, so I guess we'll save the fun for later. She's got another ring to offer up to me as well, and this one will give me a horse. And best of all, now that I've spoken with her again, I can level up at Sites of Grace, though I'm lacking the runes to level up just yet. I've plenty of soldiers ahead of me, and they're likely chocked full of runes, so it's up on my new horsey for a bit of combat. Getting to grips with the controls of mounted combat in this game isn't too bad, as it's literally the same as Skyrim, and I genuinely made the ultimate guide to mounted combat for Skyrim. And so it should come as no surprise that, despite being outnumbered by more than 10 to 1, I'm able to steadily cut down the soldiers. I figure I shouldn't do all of this the easy way though, and hop down from Torrent to face this spear-wielding champion as an equal. I say I face him as an equal, but he seems to be able to remember what all the buttons are, and I keep forgetting what my new parry button is, so he kinda whoops my ass. I'm able to make my escape, but with just a sliver of health left, I can't afford to fight honourably. I return to my stealthy ways, figuring the tiny eye slit in the armour will make me hard to spot. And this tactic works! Well, it works right up to the point where I fumble the actual stealth attack, and then get cut down. Time for attempt number 2. I swiftly gather up my runes while mounted, and then go back on my own 2 feet, so I can practice stealth a little more. And it starts about as well as last time. But at least I do manage to get off a gnarly parry this time on the other soldier. I'm genuinely not that bad at parrying in From Software games, as long as I can remember what the parry button is. That's not what I'm trying to practice right now though. I need to work out if I can really treat this like a stealth game. And you know what? I think I can. With the rest of the camp vanquished, it's once again back down to me and Spearboy. This time around I've learnt my lesson, and rather than rush in headlong I remain patient, learning his exact pathing, allowing me to land a deadly butt stab. Okay, seems that it wasn't actually deadly, more of just a tickle to the rear, which has got him rightly worked up. I try to re-engage stealth, but it turns out this game isn't the same as Skyrim in every regard, and so I have to attempt open combat once more. It's an epic confrontation, but with this one move, it will all be over. That's right folks, I did it. I beat the final boss of Elden Ring, Spear Knight Guy. Yeah. Let me know in the comments how proud you are of me for finishing the game so quickly. I'm sure all of you will have many positive things to say. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, and if you want to see more FromSoft gameplay from me, then not only is there a Sarge Plays Dark Souls playlist, which might need to be renamed now, but I'll also be starting a very special challenge run over on Bad Company Gaming next week, so head over there and subscribe if you want to find out what that will be. For now though, as always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.